Lieutenant Commander John Hayes gripped the edge of his command console as the ship shook violently. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the bridge of the U.S. Defender. On the main screen, 3 Earth warships exploded in quick succession as the alien vessels cut through them like paper. "Sir, the colony on Proxima B is sending more distress signals," said Lisa Brown, the communications officer. Her voice trembled but remained professional. "They report over 500 civilians trapped in the main settlement." John nodded, his jaw tight. "Captain Ross, we need to divert to Proxima B. Those people won't survive without evacuation." Captain Alan Ross didn't turn from the tactical display. "Negative, Hayes. Fleet Admiral has ordered all ships to defend the mining operations on Proxima C. The civilians knew the risks of outer colony life." John stepped closer to his superior officer. "Sir, with respect, Proxima C is already lost. Those mining platforms are empty. But we can still save actual lives on Proxima B." "I gave you an order, Lieutenant Commander," Ross snapped. "Return to your station." The ship rocked again as a Xalar energy beam grazed their shields. John stared at the distress signal data. Families, children, all abandoned to die because of strategic resources. "Sir," he said quietly, "I cannot follow that order." Before Captain Ross could respond, John activated his command override. "This is Lieutenant Commander Hayes. All hands prepare for emergency jump to Proxima B evacuation protocols in effect." "Hayes," Ross shouted, lunging toward him. "This is mutiny." "No, sir," John replied, his voice steady. "This is humanity." The next 4 hours passed in a blur of chaos. The U.S. Defender arrived at Proxima B just as the colony's shields failed. John coordinated the evacuation while the ship's weapons officer, Frank Miller, kept the Taller ships at bay with precision targeting. "Last transport loaded, sir," Lisa called out. "We have 327 civilians aboard." "Jump us out," John ordered. The U.S. Defender escaped the Xalar attack force by mere seconds. As the ship entered faster than light travel, John finally allowed himself to breathe. He had disobeyed direct orders, but they had saved hundreds of lives. He was wrong about the consequences. 2 weeks later, John stood rigid in the military courtroom. The trial had been quick and decisive. "Lieutenant Commander John Hayes, you have been found guilty of insubordination during wartime, unauthorized use of military equipment, and endangering a strategic military operation," Admiral William Clark announced. His cold eyes showed no emotion. "Your actions at Proxima B directly compromised Earth Fleet's defensive position." John stared straight ahead. "The colony had over 500 civilians, sir. We rescued 327, and lost valuable time that could have been used to secure mining platforms vital to Earth's war effort," Clark countered. "One officer does not get to decide humanity's strategic priorities, Hayes." From the public gallery, John could hear supporters shouting, "He saved children. He's a hero." Security officers quickly removed the protesters. Admiral Clark continued as if there had been no interruption. "This court strips you of your rank and discharges you dishonorably from the United Earth Fleet. All military benefits and honors are revoked." The gavel struck with finality. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed around John. "Commander Hayes, how does it feel to be punished for saving lives? Do you regret your decision?" John pushed through the crowd until he found the only 2 people who mattered. His sister Kate wrapped him in a tight hug while Daniel Evans, his childhood friend, stood by protectively. "They're calling you a traitor on the official channels," Kate whispered. "But people know the truth, John. The civilian networks are telling the real story." John nodded silently. It didn't matter what people called him. He had saved those families while Earth's military had been willing to let them die. That night, as John packed his few belongings from his military apartment, he watched Admiral Clark on the news. The man smiled confidently as he explained how Earth's forces had successfully protected critical resources despite unfortunate civilian losses. John turned off the screen. Humanity had forsaken him, but he would never forsake humanity. 6 months passed since John's trial. He sat in a small, dimly lit bar on the edge of New Seattle, nursing a cheap drink. The news screen above the bar showed footage of Admiral Clark accepting another medal for strategic brilliance in the ongoing sailor conflict. "They're still telling lies," said Kate as she slid into the seat across from him. Her face showed the strain of the past months. She pushed a small data chip across the table. "I got you another interview. Shipping company. They need pilots for the outer routes." John pocketed the chip without much hope. "Thanks, but we both know how it'll go. As soon as they run my name. This one might be different. The owner lost family on Proxima B." A man at the bar pointed at John. "Hey, isn't that the traitor? The one who abandoned the mining platforms?" John ignored him, used to the comments. Some people thought him a hero. Others believed the military story that he had compromised Earth's defenses for a few hundred lives. "I should go," John said quietly. Kate grabbed his hand. "You can't keep hiding, John. People need to know what really happened. It doesn't matter anymore." 2 weeks later, against all odds, John found himself in the pilot's seat of the Starlight Runner, a battered cargo vessel owned by Greg Winters, whose brother's family had been among those John saved from Proxima B. "She's not pretty," Greg had told him during their brief interview, "but she'll get you to the Kuiper Belt mining stations and back. Just don't expect military precision from her engines." For the first time since his discharge, John felt a sense of purpose. The ship might be old, but flying was still flying. He plotted a course for Eris Station, the furthest human outpost in the Kuiper Belt, carrying medical supplies and basic necessities. The vastness of space brought John peace. Out here, nobody cared about military tribunals or political games. The colonists needed their supplies, and John delivered them. Simple, honest work. On his third run to Eris Station, John noticed something odd on his sensors. The brief energy spike, unlike anything he'd seen before. He adjusted the Starlight Runner's course to investigate. "Base, this is haze on the runner. I'm picking up unusual readings about 50,000 kilometers off standard route. Going to check it out. Acknowledged, Runner. Be careful out there. We've had reports of unusual activity in that sector." John guided his ship toward the energy signature, curiosity overriding caution. As a cargo pilot, he wasn't supposed to investigate anomalies, but old habits died hard. The sensors beeped more urgently as he approached the coordinates. Then he saw it, a ship unlike any human vessel he had ever encountered. It was sleek, almost organic in design, with no visible propulsion systems. It drifted motionless against the backdrop of stars. "Base, I've found something. Definitely not one of ours." John transmitted the visual feed back to Eris Station. Before the station could respond, John's sensors screamed warnings. 3 more ships appeared, seemingly from nowhere. But these were different, angular, aggressive in design. He recognized them immediately from his military briefings. "Sailor vessels," he whispered. The first ship, the sleek one, suddenly powered up, its hull glowing with strange patterns. The Exhaler ships moved to surround it, weapons charging. Without thinking, John pushed his cargo ship's engines beyond safety limits. The Starlight Runner shot forward, positioning itself between the unknown vessel and the closest sailor ship. His combat instincts took over as he activated the runner's minimal defensive shields. "This is John Hayes of Earth vessel Starlight Runner." He broadcast on all frequencies. "Unknown ship, you have hostile forces incoming." The sailor ship fired, the energy blast grazing the runner's shields. Warning lights flashed across John's console as systems overloaded. The mysterious vessel suddenly emitted a burst of light. John's communication system crackled with a response. The language was unlike anything he had ever heard before. First contact had just become a battlefield, and John Hayes was caught in the middle. The Starlight Runner shuddered as another Xalar blast struck its shields. John's hands flew across the controls, pushing the cargo ship through maneuvers it was never designed to perform. "Shields at 20%, the computer announced in its flat voice. John gritted his teeth. The mysterious alien vessel seemed to be powering up, but too slowly. The Exhaler ships were focusing their attacks on it, clearly considering it the primary target. His cargo ship was merely an annoyance. He opened a channel again. "Unknown vessel, this is Hayes. If you can understand me, I suggest you get your engines running. I can't hold them off much longer." Only static answered him. Then a strange melodic series of tones came through his speakers, followed by what sounded like words being processed through some kind of translator. "Human vessel. Assistance. Appreciated. Stand by. Integration. Integration." John had no time to wonder what that meant. 2 Xaler ships were now moving to flank him. He remembered their tactics from his military briefings. They would trap him between their weapon systems, leaving no escape route. John pushed the runner into a tight spin, diving beneath one Xaler ship and using its bulk as temporary cover from the other. It was a move that had worked during training simulations back in the fleet. Suddenly, his ship's systems flickered. The control panel displayed symbols he didn't recognize. Before he could react, the runner accelerated sharply, its engines humming at a pitch he had never heard before. What the? The mysterious vessel was somehow controlling his ship. The runner moved in perfect coordination with the alien craft, both vessels weaving through the Xaler attack formation with impossible precision. A beam of energy unlike anything John had seen shot from the alien ship, slicing through one Xaler vessel. The remaining Xaler ships regrouped, but something had changed in their formation. They seemed hesitant. A voice spoke through his comm system, now much clearer. "Human pilot, we have temporarily integrated with your vessel's primitive systems. Your tactical maneuvers are unexpected, effective." John watched in amazement as his cargo ship's weapon systems, meant only for asteroid defense, fired with amplified power at the Xaler ships. The shots found weak points John wouldn't have known to target. "Who are you?" John asked, allowing the alien control while he studied what was happening. "We are Lyrian. Your species designation, human. Correct?" "Yes," John confirmed. "Those are Xaler ships. They'd been attacking human colonies for over a year now." There was a pause, then, "Interesting. The Xaler expansion reaches further than we anticipated. Human pilot, prepare for emergency jump." Before John could ask what that meant, both ships accelerated beyond anything the runner's engines should have been capable of. The stars blurred, and a sensation of pressure wrapped around him. When it cleared, they were in an empty region of space. No Xaler ships in sight. His control systems returned to normal, but new coordinates appeared on his navigation screen. "Human pilot, please follow. We wish to continue this conversation in safety." John hesitated only briefly. Eris Station would assume he was lost if he didn't return, but this was bigger than his cargo run. This was potentially humanity's first peaceful contact with another spacefaring species. He followed the Lyrian ship to a small icy moon orbiting a gas giant, not on any human star charts. As they approached, part of the moon's surface shimmered and revealed a hidden docking bay. Inside, John carefully landed the runner next to the much larger Lyrian vessel. Through his viewport, he saw several figures approaching. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but their proportions were different. Taller, more slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer with subtle colors. One of them stepped forward as John's airlock opened. It wore what appeared to be armor, though it looked more like a second skin than metal plating. "Human pilot," the being said, its mouth not quite matching the words John heard. "I am Zethril, ship commander of the Lyrian Coalition. Your combat assistance was unexpected. We have questions." John straightened his posture, falling back on his military training. "My name is John Hayes, formerly of the United Earth Fleet. And trust me, I have questions too." The inside of the Lyrian base was unlike anything John had ever seen. The walls seemed to pulse with soft light, and doorways opened and closed without visible controls. Zethral led John through curving corridors, where other Lyrians stopped and stared at the human in their midst. "Your species has not yet developed proper translation technology," Zethral said. The alien's voice came through a small device at its throat. "This is temporary. We can provide better methods." John nodded. "Thank you for saving my ship. Those Tellar would have destroyed me." Zethral's skin changed color slightly, shifting to a deeper blue. "It was mutual aid. Your tactical decision to defend our science vessel was unexpected. Humans have not been observed making such choices for unknown species before." "You've been watching us?" John asked. "For 23 of your Earth years," another Lyrian said, joining them. This one was shorter, with skin that shimmered with green undertones. "I am Naravos, Science Director. Your species has been of interest since you developed faster-than-light travel." They entered a large room with a central table. John noticed it displayed a three-dimensional map of local space, including Earth's solar system. "Why haven't you made contact before now?" John asked. Zethral and Naravos exchanged looks. "Your species is divided," Naravos explained. "Your governments compete rather than cooperate. When the Xalar began their expansion into your territory, we debated intervention. But you didn't intervene," John said, a hint of accusation in his voice. "The Lyrian Coalition does not interfere with developing species without clear invitation," Zethral said. "The Xalar have no such restrictions." John thought about Earth's struggling defense against the Xalar, about the families on Proxima B who had died because of strategic priorities, about his own disgrace for trying to save lives. "Our leaders might not welcome you," John admitted, "but most humans would." Naravos approached with a small device. "May I scan you? We have limited biological data on humans." John hesitated, then nodded. The scan took only seconds. "Fascinating," Naravos said. "Your neural patterns show unusual activity during stress responses. Your actions during the battle make more sense now." "What do you mean?" "Lyrians process information sequentially. Logical steps, one after another," Zethral explained. "You appeared to make multiple decisions simultaneously. Your ship moved in patterns that confused the Vtalar targeting systems." "Just basic evasive maneuvers," John said. "Not basic at all," Zethral replied. "The Xalar have fought us for decades. They understand our tactics. Yours were unpredictable." Another Lyrian entered the room and spoke rapidly in their native language. John couldn't understand, but Zethral's skin flushed a dark purple. "The Xalar have launched a major offensive in this sector," Zethral told John. "We must move our forces to defend our outer colonies." John thought of his cargo ship. "I should return to my station. They'll be wondering what happened to me." "That may not be possible," Naravos said. "The Xalar will be searching this region for both our vessels. Your return could lead them to your human outpost." John realized he was trapped. "So what happens to me now?" Zethral stepped forward. "John Hayes, formerly of Earth Fleet, you showed courage and tactical skill defending strangers. The Lyrian Coalition values such qualities." The alien's translator paused, as if searching for the right words. "We offer you a place among us." "A place? You mean join you?" "Yes. Your combat experience against the Xalar would be valuable. Your unpredictable human approaches to problems would benefit our fleet." John thought about what waited for him back on Earth. Disgrace. Suspicion. Menial jobs on the fringes of society. "What position would I hold?" he asked carefully. "You would begin as a tactical advisor. If you prove compatible with our systems and methods, advancement would follow merit alone." "Merit alone," John repeated softly. "Not politics. Not family connections. Not strategic convenience." "I accept," he said, surprising himself with how easy the decision was. "When do we start?" 2 years passed quickly for John. Learning the Lyrian language had been his first challenge. Their words flowed like music, with tones that human vocal cords could barely reproduce. Still, he had mastered enough to communicate without the translator device. John stood on the bridge of the Lyrian warship Stellar Light. He wore the silver-blue uniform of a Lyrian tactical officer. The material felt like liquid against his skin, but provided better protection than any Earth military armor. "Tactical projection complete, Advisor Hayes," said Krellmore, a young Lyrian officer who had become John's most dedicated student. On the main display, a simulation showed sailor attack patterns based on John's predictions. "Thank you, Krellmore," John replied. "Notice how they cluster their support ships here. That's not Lyrian strategy. That's their adaptation to your defense patterns." Zethrol, now fleet commander, studied the display. "Your insights continue to prove valuable, Hayes. The Xalar have changed their approach 3 times since you joined us. Each time, you predicted their adjustments." John nodded modestly. "They're learning, but so are we." In 2 years, John had risen from tactical advisor to squad leader. His understanding of Xalar behavior had saved countless Lyrian lives. The aliens fought with rigid precision, making them predictable to someone trained to look for patterns. John's human intuition, what the Lyrians called his chaos thinking, had repeatedly given them an edge. The ship's communication system chimed softly. "Fleet Commander, we have received a priority message from the High Council," announced the communications officer. Zethrel's skin rippled with bands of dark blue. Concern. Display. A holographic image appeared of Elder Tavrin, head of the Lyrian Coalition Council. "Fleet Commander, our long-range scouts report a major Xalar fleet movement toward Sector 973. Analysis suggests they target the human colonies in that region." John felt his heart race. Sector 973 in Lyrian terms meant the Ta Siti system, one of humanity's most populated off-Earth colonies. "The Council has decided to offer assistance to the humans," Elder Tavrin continued. "This will be our first official contact with Earth authorities. You will lead this mission, Fleet Commander." Zethrol's skin flashed green with acknowledgement. "We will depart immediately, Elder." As the message ended, Zethrol turned to John. "This changes things, Hayes. Your status among us will become known to your people." John hadn't thought much about Earth lately. His life among the Lyrians felt more real than his past disgrace. "Will that be a problem for the Coalition?" "No," Zethrol said, "but it may complicate matters for you. Earth military records identify you as a disciplined officer. They may not welcome your return under Lyrian command." John smiled grimly. "I'm not returning under their command, am I?" Later, in his quarters, John reviewed information about Ta Siti. The colony there held over 2 million people. If the Xalar struck with their typical force, Earth's defenses would crumble within days. His door chimed. "Enter," John called. Neravos stepped inside. The science director's skin glimmered with purple curiosity. "You seem troubled, Hayes. Just thinking about seeing humans again. You miss your kind." John considered the question. "I miss specific humans. My sister, my friend. But the Lyrians have become my people in many ways. You judged me by what I did, not by politics or convenience." Neravos nodded. "The Council has made a decision you should know about. It concerns your status." John raised an eyebrow. "My status?" "Your performance has exceeded all expectations. Your tactics have been adopted throughout the fleet. The Council has approved your promotion to Squad Commander." John blinked in surprise. "Squad Commander? But no non-Lyrian has ever." "Precisely," Neravos interrupted. "It is unprecedented. But so are you, John Hayes." John thought about the irony. The military that had raised him had cast him out in disgrace. Now he would return to Earth space as a commander in an alien fleet. "The ship will reach Ta Siti in 3 days," Neravos said. "The humans will need to know who you are." "They'll know," John said quietly. Earth is about to meet the man they threw away. The Lyrian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Ta-CD system. John stood on the bridge of the flagship, now wearing the gold-trimmed uniform of a squad commander. 5 Lyrian warships had accompanied them, a significant force that showed the coalition's commitment. "Multiple human vessels detected," reported the sensor officer. "They appear to be in defensive formation around the colony. Sattler forces approaching from the outer system." Zethrol turned to John. "It is time, Squad Commander Hayes. Open a channel to the human fleet." John stepped forward. This moment had played in his mind for days, yet he felt strangely calm. "This is Squad Commander John Hayes of the Lyrian Coalition Fleet. We are here to assist Earth forces against the Sattler attack. Please respond." Silence stretched for nearly a minute. Then a familiar voice came through the speakers. "This is Admiral William Clark of the United Earth Fleet. We have no record of any Lyrian coalition. Identify yourself properly." John's jaw tightened. Of all people, it had to be Clark, the man who had led his court-martial. "Admiral Clark, this is John Hayes, formerly Lieutenant Commander of the U.S. Defender. I am now Squad Commander with the Lyrian Coalition, an advanced spacefaring alliance. We have extensive experience fighting the Sattler and offer our assistance." The silence that followed was even longer. John could imagine the chaos his transmission had caused on the Earth Fleet's command ship. "Hayes." Clark finally responded, disbelief in his voice. "The same Hayes who was dishonorably discharged for insubordination." "The same," John replied calmly. "The Lyrians found my tactical abilities valuable." "Admiral, the Sattler force approaching Ta-CD is larger than anything Earth has faced before. You need our help." The communication officer whispered to John, "The human vessels are changing formation. Weapons systems activating." John wasn't surprised. Earth military would be suspicious of any alien contact, let alone one led by a disgraced former officer. "Admiral," John said urgently, "scan our ships if you must, but do it quickly. The Sattler will be in firing range of the colony in less than an hour. They don't take prisoners, as you well know." A new voice joined the channel. "This is Governor Susan Lee of Ta City Colony. Admiral Clark, if these aliens can help us, we need to accept. Our civilian shelters can only withstand Sattler bombardment for a few days at most." John recognized a potential ally. "Governor Lee, the Lyrians have defended successfully against Sattler attacks for decades. We have technology that can help." Admiral Clark's voice returned, rigid with authority. "Hayes, assuming you are who you claim to be, you have no standing to negotiate with Earth officials. You will withdraw your vessels immediately." Zethrol stepped forward, skin flashing with irritation. "Admiral Clark of Earth, I am Fleet Commander Zethrol. Squad Commander Hayes serves under my authority. The Lyrian Coalition has voted to assist humanity against our common enemy. Your personal feelings toward Hayes are irrelevant to this mission." The Earth communication went silent again. John exchanged glances with Zethrol. This was going exactly as he had feared. Suddenly, the sensors blared warnings. "Sailor advance ships detected. They've increased speed. Colony impact in 40 minutes. Admiral Clark's voice returned, tense but controlled. "Lyrian vessels, we will allow you to take position along our defensive perimeter. But be warned, any hostile action toward Earth ships will be met with full force." "Understood, Admiral," John replied. "Sending tactical data now. The Sattler have a weak point in their forward shields when they power their main weapons. Target that section, and their ships will be vulnerable." As the Lyrian ships moved to join the Earth fleet, John felt all eyes on the bridge watching him. The human who had been cast out by his own kind was now leading aliens to Earth's defense. "Tactical positions established," reported Krellmore. "Earth vessels are adjusting to match our formation." "Very good," John said. "Prepare for combat. Show them what the Lyrians can do." The first sailor ships appeared on the main screen, their angular forms familiar and menacing. John Hayes was about to fight for the people who had rejected him. The battle raged for hours. John coordinated the Lyrian ships with practiced efficiency, filling gaps in the Earth fleet's defense strategy. The Xalar pressed their attack relentlessly, but the combined forces held them at bay. Earth cruiser Valiant is taking heavy damage, reported Krellmore. Their shields are failing. John made a quick decision. Move the Light Dancer to cover them. Have them focus on the Xalar flagship's left flank. Zethral observed from his command position. The Earth vessels fight well, but their tactics are predictable. The Xalar are adapting. Admiral Clark, John called over the communication channel. You need to break your standard formation. The Xalar have analyzed your pattern and are targeting the weak points. We follow Earth Fleet protocols, Hayes, Clark replied stiffly. Your advice is noted. John clenched his fist in frustration. Admiral, with respect, those protocols were developed before we understood sailor battle tactics. They're targeting your communication relays specifically. As if to prove his point, an Earth destroyer exploded in a ball of light. John closed his eyes briefly, knowing hundreds of lives had just been lost. Admiral, he said, his voice calm but firm. Let me send you our tactical data on sailor weak points. I've been studying them for 2 years. There was a long pause before Clark responded. Send the data. John nodded to the communications officer. Within moments, detailed analysis of sailor ship vulnerabilities streamed to the Earth fleet. A moment of your time, Admiral, John added. In private, after a brief hesitation, a secure channel opened. Clark's face appeared on John's personal screen, lined and tired. Make it quick, Hayes. We're in the middle of a battle. Sir, I need to show you something. John transferred a file from his personal data storage. These are records from the U.S. Defender, the day of the Proxima B evacuation. Clark's eyes narrowed. This isn't the time for. It shows that Captain Ross received orders to abandon the civilians before the battle even began. Orders that came directly from your office, Admiral. Clark's face hardened. You're in no position to make accusations. I'm not making accusations. I'm stating facts that I can prove, John replied. I kept a backup of the ship's logs before my court-martial. I also have testimony from 3 officers who witnessed the original orders. What do you want, Hayes? I want you to listen to me now, so we can save the people of Ta City. After that, I want a public clearing of my name. The truth needs to be known. The Admiral stared at him for a long moment. Help us win this battle, and we'll discuss it. The secure channel closed. Moments later, the Earth fleet began to shift its formation, adopting the tactics John had suggested. The human vessels are moving to the positions you recommended, Krellmore said, surprise evident in his voice. John allowed himself a small smile. Let's show them what we can do together. Target the Xalar command ships with our phase cannons. Coordinate with Earth vessels for maximum impact. The combined fleet moved with new purpose. Earth ships provided covering fire, while Lyrian vessels struck with their advanced weapons. The Xalar, facing an unexpectedly coordinated defense, began to fall back. After another hour of fighting, the last Xalar ship retreated. The bridge of the Lyrian flagship erupted in celebration, skin colors flashing bright yellows and greens of victory. Well done, Squad Commander, Zethral said, his translator barely keeping up with his excited speech. A colony is safe. John nodded, exhausted but satisfied. On the main screen, a message appeared from Earth Fleet Command. Request Lyrian representatives and Squad Commander Hayes shuttle to Earth flagship for tactical debrief and diplomatic discussion. Neravos approached John. Will they honor their agreement with you? We'll see, John replied. But I have the evidence, and now I have witnesses from 2 species. As John prepared to board the shuttle to the Earth flagship, Zethral stopped him. Remember, Hayes, whatever happens, you have earned your place among us. You are Lyrian commander now, no matter what humans decide. John straightened his Lyrian uniform. Thank you, Fleet Commander. That means more than they could ever understand. 1 month after the Battle of Ta City, John stood in the Grand Hall of the United Earth Government in Geneva. The room buzzed with voices as diplomats, military officers, and reporters gathered for the historic occasion. The formal alliance between Earth and the Lyrian coalition will be signed today, a news anchor announced to viewers across human space. This partnership comes after the successful defense of Ta City colony from sailor forces. John felt strange in his formal Lyrian uniform. Beside him stood Zethral and 3 members of the Lyrian High Council. Across the room, Admiral Clark watched with a carefully neutral expression. The past month had been a whirlwind. After the battle, John had presented his evidence about the Proxima B incident. Faced with undeniable proof and the political pressure of the Lyrian alliance, Earth's government had quietly cleared his name. The official record now showed he had acted heroically to save civilian lives. Governor Susan Lee of Ta City approached John. "Squad Commander Hayes, the people of our colony owe you a debt we can never repay. Without your leadership, we would have been destroyed." John nodded politely. "The credit belongs to both fleets, Governor. Humans and Lyrians working together accomplish what neither could alone." The Earth President walked to the central podium. The room fell silent. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she began. "Our first formal alliance with another spacefaring civilization. Together with the Lyrian coalition, we will stand against the Xalar threat." As the president spoke, John noticed his sister Kate entering the hall. She spotted him and smiled broadly. Beside her walked Daniel Evans, his old friend. Both had tears in their eyes. John had spoken with them only briefly since his return, and there was still so much to explain. As part of this historic agreement, the president continued, "Earth will contribute ships and personnel to a joint defense force. Leadership of this force required careful consideration." She gestured toward John. "Squad Commander John Hayes, please approach." John walked forward, conscious of all eyes upon him. "Commander Hayes represents the best of both our civilizations," the president said. Once wrongfully accused by his own people, he found a new home among the Lyrians, who recognized his exceptional abilities. Now, at the recommendation of both Earth Fleet Command and the Lyrian High Council, I am pleased to announce that Commander Hayes will lead the Joint Defense Force as its first admiral. Murmurs spread through the crowd. John himself was stunned. He had expected a diplomatic role at most, not command of the combined fleet. "Mr. President," he said carefully, "I am honored, but unexpected." Elder Tavrin of the Lyrian Council stepped forward. "It was the logical choice, Commander Hayes. You understand both cultures. Both militaries trust your tactical judgment." Admiral Clark approached and extended his hand. "The evidence you presented was compelling, Hayes. I've recommended this appointment personally. It's the least we can do to make amends." John accepted the handshake, noting the lack of a genuine apology but recognizing the gesture for what it was, the closest thing to admission of wrongdoing he would get. After the ceremony, John found a quiet moment with Kate and Daniel. "Will you stay on Earth now?" Kate asked, squeezing his hand. John shook his head. "My place is with the fleet. There's still so much we can learn from each other. The Lyrians gave me a chance when humanity cast me aside. I won't forget that." "But you're coming back to humanity now," Daniel said. John smiled. "I never left humanity. I just found that being human isn't about where you're from. It's about what you stand for." Later, as John prepared to board the Lyrian flagship, Zethral joined him. "The Council has approved the transfer of our most advanced technology to the Joint Fleet, a gesture of trust." "Thank you," John said, "for everything, for seeing value in me when my own kind didn't." "Your kind sees it now," Zethral replied, skin glowing a warm orange. "Admiral Hayes." John looked out at the combined fleet gathering in Earth orbit, human and Lyrian ships side by side. The man humanity had forsaken was now bringing them the stars.
The medical ship Hope's Light moved slowly through the dark space between two fighting armies. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge watching the stars. She had gray hair and tired eyes from 15 years of running hospital ships. The war between the Zelvani and Krynoth people had been going on for 3 years now. Her ship carried wounded soldiers from both sides. That was the rule. Medical ships helped everyone. It did not matter which side they fought for. The ship was painted white with big red crosses on every side. Every species in the galaxy knew what those symbols meant. They meant safety. They meant healing. They meant no weapons. Linda had seen terrible things in her years as a captain, but she believed in the rules. Even enemies respected medical ships. That was how civilization worked. Lieutenant Jake Morris sat at the communication station. He was young with brown hair and quick fingers on the controls. He looked up at Linda and smiled. The Zelvani ships know we are here. The Krynoth ships also sent acknowledgement. We are clear to pass through the combat zone. Linda nodded and drank her coffee. Good. How are the patients doing? Dr. Peter Grant walked onto the bridge holding a data pad. He was the chief medical officer and had been saving lives for 20 years. The critical cases are all stable now. The Krynoth soldiers we picked up yesterday are responding well to treatment. We should reach the neutral station in about 18 hours. Linda looked at the star map on her screen. 18 hours. Then they would unload the wounded at the safe station and go back into the war zone to pick up more. That was the cycle. Save who you can, move them to safety, go back and save more. She had done this hundreds of times. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Ensign Amy Clark worked at the sensor station. She was the youngest crew member at only 22 years old. Her red hair was pulled back tight. Suddenly she sat up straight. Captain, I have a contact on sensors. It is a Zelvani heavy cruiser. The ship name is Talon's Edge. They are holding position at the edge of the safe corridor. Linda set down her coffee cup. Hail them, Jake. Send our medical status again, just to be sure. Jake's fingers moved fast across his panel. Sending now, Captain. His face changed. They are responding. Audio only. The alien voice came through the speakers. The computer translated it into English. Human vessel Hope's Light. We acknowledge your medical status. Your passage is recognized under Galactic Council protocols. Linda spoke clearly. Thank you, Commander. We are carrying wounded from both Zelvani and Krynoth forces. Our destination is Station Mercy 7. There was a pause. Understood. Safe travels, Hope's Light. The connection ended. Linda picked up her coffee again. See? Even in war, some things stay civilized. She took a sip. Amy's voice cut through the calm like a knife. Captain, the Talon's Edge is charging weapons. All weapon systems are powering up. Energy levels are spiking. Linda's hand froze with the cup halfway to her mouth. What? Jake, open a channel right now. Jake's face went pale. Channel open, Captain, but they are not answering. Linda's voice stayed calm even though ice filled her stomach. Raise shields. All hands brace for impact. Broadcast our medical status on every frequency we have. The Hope's Light's defensive screens came online. They were not strong shields. Medical ships did not carry military-grade defenses. That was part of the rules. Peter grabbed onto a rail. Linda, we have patients in surgery right now. We cannot make evasive moves. Linda looked at him. I know, Peter. Amy's sensors screamed warnings. Multiple plasma torpedoes incoming. 20 seconds to impact. Linda pressed the ship-wide intercom. All decks, this is the captain. She paused. What could she say? What words mattered now? I need you to know that serving with you has been the greatest honor of my life. The first torpedo hit the left side of the ship. It tore through the shields like paper through air. The explosion ripped through the medical bays where wounded soldiers from both sides were sleeping in their beds. Zelvani and Krynoth dying together. The second torpedo hit the engine room. The power core started to break apart. Linda watched her screens go dark one by one. 700 people on her ship. 700 doctors and nurses and medics. 700 people who had spent their lives healing others. She thought about her Uncle Greg, who was an admiral. She thought about the message she had sent him last week about a new surgery technique. The ammunition storage exploded. The Hope's Light became a ball of white fire that lit up the dark space for just a moment. Then it was gone. Only debris remained. Medical equipment floating in space. Bodies in white uniforms. a stuffed toy that one of the nurses kept on her desk. 40 light-years away on Earth, deep under the ground, Admiral Greg Fisher stood in the military command center. He was 68 years old with white hair and a face carved by hard decisions. An automated distress signal came through. He watched the Hope's Light's life signs on his display. He watched them all go to zero. His aide, Commander Luke Barnes, stood next to him. "Sir, initial reports indicate deliberate fire from a Zelvani cruiser. The Hope's Light was broadcasting medical status on all frequencies." Greg stared at the empty screen where his niece's ship used to be. Linda had called him Uncle Greg even after she made captain. She had been so excited about her work. So proud to serve on a hospital ship. "Get me the president." Greg's voice was quiet but cold. "Tell her it is time to remind the galaxy why you don't touch our medics." Luke hurried away to make the call. Greg stood alone in the command center looking at the data. 700 people murdered while trying to save lives. 700 healers killed while treating the wounded. This was not an accident of war. This was not a stray shot. This was a choice. The Zelvani had made a choice. Now humanity would make one too. Within an hour, emergency meetings started on Earth. The president was briefed. The military prepared options. The news spread across the planet. A hospital ship destroyed. All crew lost. Deliberate attack. The word went out to every human colony and every human ship. The Hope's Light was gone. But what came next would echo across the galaxy for generations. The United Earth Parliament met 2 hours after the Hope's Light died. President Catherine Blake walked to the speaker's platform. Her face looked like it was made from stone. The holographic screens around the chamber showed the debris field. Pieces of what used to be a hospital ship floated in the darkness of space. 700 personnel. Catherine's voice was hard and cold. Doctors, nurses, medics, surgeons, they were not soldiers. They carried no weapons. They flew under the protection of every galactic law and treaty. And they were murdered. The Parliament chamber was silent. Representative Helen Cole was crying quietly in her seat. Her daughter had been a nurse on the Hope's Light. She was 26 years old. Now she was gone. Catherine continued speaking. The Zelvani Collective has issued a statement. They claim the attack was a tragic mistake, a rogue commander acting without authorization. They offer compensation and apologies. She paused. Her hands gripped the podium so hard her knuckles turned white. "I say their apologies are not enough." Admiral Greg Fisher stood up from his seat. He was the oldest admiral in the fleet. He had fought in 17 major battles over 46 years. His face showed every hard decision he had ever made. "Madam President, members of Parliament, I have served this fleet since I was 22 years old. I have ordered attacks that still haunt my dreams, but I have never once authorized fire on a medical vessel." He stopped and looked around the room. "There are lines that cannot be crossed. When someone crosses them, they must learn why those lines exist." General Kevin Shaw stood next. He commanded the Earth Marine Corps. "The Galactic Council is calling for restraint. They want investigations and committees and diplomatic solutions. Meanwhile, the Zelvani commander responsible has been quietly promoted and transferred. This is how they treat the murder of our healers." The debate went on for 6 hours. Some members called for sanctions and legal action. Others demanded immediate military response. Videos played showing the Hope's Light on previous missions. Linda Hayes smiling as she welcomed wounded soldiers onto her ship. Doctors working to save a Kreenoth warrior who had been burned in battle. Nurses singing birthday songs for a young pilot who turned 20 while recovering from injuries. When the vote finally came, it was almost unanimous. Earth would go to war. Above Mars in the fleet staging area, Captain Ryan Foster received his orders. He stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Vengeance. The ship was new with weapons that made other species nervous. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. They knew how to build things that killed efficiently. All department heads report to the briefing room. Ryan was 42 years old. Young for a battlecruiser captain, but he had earned his rank fighting the Kreenoth in the border wars. Commander Nina Wells was already in the briefing room when Ryan arrived. She was his second in command. "Captain, we are being assigned to Battle Group 7. 12 heavy cruisers, 6 battlecruisers, 2 carriers. The Vengeance will be the flagship." Ryan looked at the star map. Their target glowed on the display. The Zelvani home system. "They are not holding back." Nina's face was grim. "No, sir. Admiral Fisher wants this to be unmistakable. The order is direct. The Zelvani military is to be neutralized with extreme prejudice. Lieutenant Paul Carson came in next. He was the weapons officer. Captain, I have been reviewing our targeting priorities. The intelligence package is very detailed. Show me, Ryan said. The hologram changed to show the Zelvani home system, a yellow sun with 6 planets. 2 of them had populations. The third planet, Zelvan Prime, held their capital and military headquarters. Paul pointed at different locations. The Zelvani have 14 orbital defense platforms. Each one equals a heavy cruiser in firepower. Their home fleet has 8 battleships and about 40 support vessels. On paper, they outnumber us significantly. On paper, Nina repeated. But they have never faced a coordinated human assault. Ryan nodded slowly. Humanity had learned warfare the hard way, fighting themselves. For thousands of years, they had perfected the art of killing their own kind. When they reached the stars, they brought that knowledge with them. Lieutenant Carla Hayes entered last. She was the ship's doctor. What about civilian casualties? Her brother had died on the Hope's Light. He had been a medic. Ryan looked at her. Rules of engagement are strict. Military targets only. But those targets include every ship and station and facility capable of supporting military operations. The Zelvani are going to learn the difference between a mistake and deliberate policy. The briefing continued for another hour. Charts showed approach vectors. Lists detailed every target. Backup plans covered contingencies. When it ended, Ryan stood and addressed his crew over the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the captain. In 6 hours, we depart for the Zelvani home system. I will not lie to you about what we are facing. The Zelvani are a warrior culture with a military tradition spanning thousands of years. They are experienced and disciplined and well-armed. He paused and looked out at Mars through the window. But they made one critical mistake. They forgot that before humans were explorers and before we were diplomats or traders, we were survivors. We are a species that conquered our own world 100 times over, and now they will learn what that means. Ryan's voice grew colder. They killed our healers. They murdered people who existed only to save lives. The Galactic Council can debate and investigate all they want. We are going to deliver a different kind of verdict. Throughout the fleet, similar speeches happened on dozens of ships. On the carrier, Thunderchild Admiral Fisher addressed his strike group commanders through holographic conference. The objective is simple. When we are finished, the Zelvani Collective will not have the military capacity to threaten anyone for a generation. We are going to break them so thoroughly that every species in the galaxy will remember what happens when you attack a human medical ship. Captain Steve Price of the heavy cruiser, defiant, raised his hand. Admiral, some of the other council races are expressing concern about our response. The Turellians have formally requested we reconsider. Fisher's face did not change. Captain Price, the Turellians lost a medical ship to pirates 40 years ago. They filed protests and investigations. They are still waiting for justice. We do things differently. Yes, sir, Steve replied. His voice carried fierce pride. The conference ended. Fisher sat alone in his office looking at the personnel files of the Hope's Light crew. 700 faces looked back at him. Linda's photo was in the front row. She was smiling in her captain's uniform. He remembered her graduation from the academy. He remembered her first command. He remembered the last message she had sent him talking about a new surgery technique. Computer. Record a message for the fleet. The recording light came on. This is Admiral Fisher to all personnel of Task Force Retribution. In a few hours we will cross into Zelvani space. What we do there will echo through history. Some will call us vengeful. Some will call us monsters. Let them. We are the answer to a simple question. What happens when you murder those who exist only to heal? Remember the Hope's Light. Remember why we do not forgive this. And show them why humanity's mercy is a gift, not a weakness. The fleet began to move. Ships from Earth and Mars and the outer colonies, all heading toward one destination. The Zelvani were about to learn a lesson written in fire. The Zelvani home system of Zelvan Prime had never been attacked in 3,000 years. Defense platforms circled the inhabited worlds. The home fleet patrolled with confidence born from centuries of safety. Nobody had ever dared to strike at the heart of the collective. Admiral Kreshtor stood on the bridge of the battleship Pride of Zelvan. His dorsal crest was raised high as he reviewed the morning reports. The humans had protested the destruction of their medical vessel. That was expected. The diplomats would handle it with reparations and apologies. Maybe a tribunal for Commander Veshkan, who had fired on the hospital ship. Then everything would return to normal. Admiral, His sensor officer called out. We are detecting multiple hyperspace ruptures at the system boundary. Significant energy signatures. Kreshtor's crest lowered slightly. Identify them. Analyzing now. The officer's voice grew uncertain. Configuration matches human military vessels. Counting 12 contacts, 15, 20. Admiral, it is an entire battle group. The bridge went silent. Every officer turned to look at their commander. This was impossible. Nobody attacked a council member's home system over a single incident. Battle stations. Kreshtor ordered. His voice stayed steady, but his secondary hearts were beating fast. Activate all defense platforms. Recall all patrol elements to defensive positions. And get me a channel to the human commander. The tactical display showed the human fleet entering normal space in perfect formation. They were heading straight for Zelvan Prime. Kreshtor had never seen anything like it. 20 warships appearing at once with obvious hostile intent. Channel open, Admiral. The communications officer reported. Human commander, this is Admiral Kreshtor of the Zelvani Collective. You are entering our sovereign space with military forces. Explain your intentions immediately, or we will consider this an act of war. The response came from a human female. Her voice was cold and hard. Admiral Kreshtor, this is Admiral Fisher commanding Task Force Retribution. Your forces destroyed the medical frigate Hope's Light and murdered 700 unarmed personnel. We are here to deliver consequences. You have 2 hours to evacuate all non-military personnel from orbital facilities and alert your civilian population to seek shelter. After that, we will begin operations. Kreshtor's crest flared with shock and anger. This is outrageous. The commander responsible has been disciplined. The collective has offered full reparations. You cannot attack a council world over a single mistake. Watch us, Fisher replied. Then the channel closed. 2 hours later, the Zelvani home fleet moved to intercept. 8 battleships and their escort vessels formed a defensive line between the human fleet and Zelvan Prime. Kreshtor had called for reinforcements from neighboring systems, but they would take days to arrive. For now, he had to hold with what he had. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Humans are impulsive and aggressive, but they are not stupid. Once they see our defensive strength, they will negotiate. On the Vengeance, Captain Ryan Foster watched the Zelvani fleet deploy. Classic defensive posture, he said to Nina. They are thinking like this is a game of chess. They do not understand what is coming. Nina said quietly. No, Ryan agreed. They really do not. All ships, this is Vengeance Actual. Execute battle plan Hammerfall. Focus fire as designated. No warnings. No posturing. Just hit them. The human fleet split into 3 groups. Each group was led by a battlecruiser. The Vengeance group dove toward the Zelvani left flank, accelerating to speeds that made sensors scream. The other 2 groups arced high and low, creating a 3-dimensional trap. They are attempting a pincer movement, Kreshtor's tactical officer reported. Recommend we concentrate fire on the center group and break through. But before Kreshtor could give the order, the human ships opened fire. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting naval warfare on Earth's oceans. They understood crossfire and encirclement and concentration of force. When they took those lessons to space, they adapted rather than abandoned them. The Zelvani battleship Eternal Glory took the first salvo from 3 human cruisers at once. Railgun rounds moving at huge fractions of light speed punched through its shields. Missiles followed. Each warhead contained plasma charges that burned through armor like acid. Eternal Glory broke apart in seconds. Impossible, Kreshtor whispered. His display showed the battleship simply ceased to exist. Their weapons, how are they so precise? He did not know that human targeting systems were based on centuries of trying to hit other humans who had spent just as long learning to dodge. The Zelvani ships moved in predictable patterns. Their defensive tactics were designed for fighting other council races who all used the same strategies. The humans fought like nothing the Zelvani had ever seen. Their ships moved in coordinated swarms. Each vessel supported others in overlapping fields of fire. When a Zelvani battleship tried to target a single human cruiser, 2 others would appear on its flanks hammering at weak points. All ships reform on my position, Kreshtor ordered desperately. Present unified front, but the human fleet did not allow it. Small fighters launched from the carriers moved at impossible speeds, darting through the Zelvani formation. They disrupted communications and targeting systems. When the Zelvani ships tried to group together, the humans deployed mines that forced them to scatter. When they scattered, concentrated fire picked them off one by one. Admiral Fisher watched from the Thunderchild's command center. Commander Luke Barnes stood beside him providing updates. Zelvani flagship is attempting to withdraw. 4th Defense Platform is offline. Enemy fighter screen is collapsing. Captain Foster's group is performing well. Fisher observed. Tell him to press the attack on their orbital facilities once the fleet is neutralized. Yes, sir. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Zelvani home fleet had ceased to exist. 6 of their 8 battleships were destroyed. The remaining 2 were crippled and drifting. The orbital defense platforms were reduced to wreckage. Zelvani casualties exceeded 40,000. Human losses were 2 cruisers damaged. 0 deaths. Kreshtor survived. A rescue shuttle pulled him from the wreckage of the Pride of Zelvan. As he watched the human fleet move into position around Zelvan Prime, he finally understood the magnitude of his civilization's error. They had attacked humanity's healers. Now they paid the price. Admiral Fisher's image appeared on every screen across the planet. People of Zelvan Prime. His voice was broadcast to billions. Your military attacked a hospital ship. They murdered healers. They broke the most sacred law of civilized war. Your leaders told you it was a mistake. They were wrong. It was a choice, and choices have consequences. The hologram showed footage from the Hope's Light debris field. Bodies floating in space. Medical equipment scattered among the wreckage. A child's toy drifting alone in the void. For the next 30 days, your orbital space belongs to us. Fisher continued. Your military shipyards will be destroyed. Your weapons manufacturing facilities will be demolished. Every military installation on your worlds will be reduced to rubble. But your cities and homes and civilian infrastructure will remain untouched. You will be left with enough to rebuild, but not enough to threaten anyone. He paused. This is not conquest. This is a lesson. When this is over, you will be allowed to rejoin the galactic community. But you will remember this day. You will remember what happens when humanity's mercy is thrown back in our face. You will remember the Hope's Light. The hologram faded. On the Vengeance, Ryan prepared for orbital bombardment operations. His crew worked with grim efficiency. Target package Delta is confirmed. Paul reported. Military shipyard complex. No civilian presence within 15 kilometers. Fire when ready. Ryan ordered. The Vengeance's main railgun fired. On Zelvan Prime, a military facility that had stood for 800 years, simply ceased to exist. The bombardment would continue for a month. Systematic, thorough, the Zelvani military would be broken. 6 weeks after the Battle of Zelvan Prime, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Voices raised in anger and fear filled the air as translators worked overtime. Ambassador Claire Newton represented humanity. She was 56 years old with silver streaking through her dark hair. She had spent 20 years building relationships with other council races. She had worked for integration and cooperation. Now she stood before them defending humanity's most aggressive military action in galactic history. The human delegation will address the council, the presiding arbiter announced. He was a Vorshan elder whose species had founded the council 2,000 years ago. Claire stepped to the central platform. Her image was projected throughout the chamber. Honored representatives, I understand your concerns. What happened at Zelvan Prime was unprecedented in council history. But so was the attack on the Hope's Light. The destruction was disproportionate. Ambassador Thelvar of the Krinoth Empire interrupted. Despite being at war with the Zelvani, even they were disturbed by humanity's response. 700 lives do not justify 40,000 deaths and the crippling of an entire civilization's military capacity. Claire's expression hardened. Ambassador Thelvar, would you like to know how many medical personnel your people have lost to deliberate attacks in this war? 0. Because both you and the Zelvani understood the rules. Medical ships are sacred. When the Hope's Light was destroyed, it was not an accident. It was murder, and it was allowed to happen because the consequences had become meaningless. She pulled up a holographic display. In the past 50 years, there have been 27 documented attacks on medical vessels by various species. The Council's response has been diplomatic protests and reparations and weak sanctions. Do you know how many military officers have been meaningfully punished for these attacks? 3 out of 27 incidents. The chamber grew quieter. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity does not accept this standard. Claire continued. When someone attacks our healers, we respond with overwhelming force. Not out of revenge, though we do not apologize for our anger. We respond because the only way to protect medical personnel is to make the consequences absolutely catastrophic. You speak of protection, Ambassador Quitan of the Tyrellian Union said. Her voice was heavy with sorrow. But what you delivered was devastation. You shattered the Zelvani fleet and destroyed their infrastructure. You left them defenseless. How is this justice? Claire met the Tyrellian ambassador's eyes. Ambassador Quitan, 40 years ago, your medical ship Healing Wing was destroyed by pirates. 342 of your people died. The council investigated for 5 years. They issued condemnations. They imposed sanctions. And in the end, nothing changed. The pirates were never caught. Tell me, Ambassador, how many Tyrellian medical ships have you lost since then? Quitan's translator was silent for a long moment. 2 more, she finally admitted. And how many human medical ships have been attacked in the century since we joined the council? Claire asked. Only the Hope's Light. Quitan said quietly. Exactly, Claire said. Because humanity established a precedent. When pirates fired on one of our hospital ships 30 years ago, we hunted every vessel involved. It took 4 years. We pursued them across 6 systems. And when we found them, we gave no quarter. Word spread. Do not touch human medical ships. The cost is too high. She looked around at all the assembled species. The Zelvani forgot that lesson. Or perhaps they never learned it, because the Council's previous responses taught them that attacking medical ships carried no real consequences. We have corrected that misconception. On Earth, the debate was equally fierce. President Catherine Blake faced reporters in the White House briefing room. A journalist named Sarah Kim stood to ask a question. Madam President, critics are calling the Zelvan operation excessive and potentially criminal. There are calls for Admiral Fisher to be investigated. How do you respond? Catherine took a breath. Admiral Fisher acted under direct orders from the civilian government. Every target was reviewed and approved. Our rules of engagement were strict. Military targets only. Despite destroying the Zelvani fleet, civilian casualties were kept below 3,000, mostly from infrastructure failures. Compare that to 40,000 military personnel who died defending installations whose purpose was to enable future aggression. But Madam President, another reporter called out, the Zelvani are now helpless. What stops their enemies from taking advantage? We are, Catherine replied flatly. What we did to the Zelvani military was not conquest. It was a measured response to an unforgivable act. For the next generation, Earth's fleet will guarantee Zelvani security from external threats, but their military will remain limited by treaty. They can defend their worlds, but they will not have capacity for offensive war. The questions continued for another hour. Catherine's message stayed consistent. Humanity would accept being called harsh, but they would never allow attacks on medical personnel to go unpunished. On Zelvan Prime, the government had collapsed. The previous leaders had resigned in disgrace. Premier Tashvon now led the planet. She was a civilian administrator who had opposed the war from the beginning. She found herself negotiating with the humans who controlled her world's orbital space. Captain Ryan Foster met her aboard the Vengeance. She was escorted by 2 human Marines, though Ryan had insisted no weapons be drawn. Tashvon's crest was lowered in submission and mourning. Captain Foster. She began through her translator. I want you to know that many of us oppose the military's aggression. We argued against the war. We certainly never supported the attack on your medical ship. Ryan nodded. I believe you, Premier. But that does not change what happened. 700 people are dead because your military thought attacking a hospital ship was acceptable. I know, Tashvon said. And now 40,000 of my people are dead in return. Our fleet is gone. Captain, I understand why you did this, but where does it end? How many more must die? No more, Ryan replied. The operation is complete. Your military targets have been eliminated. We will maintain orbital control for 18 months to ensure treaty compliance. After that, we withdraw. You can rebuild. He showed her reconstruction plans. Earth is prepared to provide humanitarian assistance, food and medical supplies and construction materials. We will help rebuild your civilian infrastructure. What we will not do is help rebuild your war machine. Tashvon studied the plans. Despite everything, they were generous. The humans would help repair damage from power plant failures and infrastructure collapse. Why? She asked. Why help us at all? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Because we are not monsters, Premier. What we did was brutal, but it was focused. We broke your military because it needed to be broken. That does not mean we want your civilization to suffer. We want you to remember this lesson, not be destroyed by it. Over the following weeks, human relief ships arrived at Zelvan Prime. The same species that had shattered the Zelvani fleet was now providing food and helping repair power grids. The Galactic Council watched in confusion. Claire explained it simply. Humanity learned long ago that if you want peace, you cannot just defeat enemies. You have to help them rebuild. We call it winning the peace. In the Military Command Center beneath Earth, Admiral Fisher reviewed final reports. The mission had achieved every objective. The Zelvani military was broken, and every species in the galaxy now understood the price of attacking human medical vessels. Commander Luke Barnes entered with news. Admiral, the Council has formally censured Earth for excessive force. It is mostly symbolic. Fisher nodded. Expected. Anything else? Yes, sir. 12 different species have quietly requested human assistance in protecting their medical ships. Apparently, pirate attacks on medical vessels have decreased 70% in the last month. A ghost of a smile crossed Fisher's face. Fear is a powerful motivator. As Luke left, Fisher turned to the memorial wall in his office. A photo of the Hope's Light crew hung there. 700 faces. Linda smiled from the front row. We got them, Linda, he said quietly. The galaxy will not forget. I promise you that. 3 years after the Hope's Light was destroyed, the galaxy had changed. The medical vessel protection protocols that the Council had debated for decades were now ironclad law. Attacks on hospital ships had dropped to nearly zero. The memory of Zelvan Prime was fresh enough to stop even the most aggressive military powers. On the new hospital ship, Hope-renewed Dr. Carla Hayes walked through the medical bays. She had transferred from the Vengeance after the war. She had returned to her first calling as a healer. The ship was humanity's statement that the destruction of the Hope's Light would not stop their medical mission, but it was built differently than before. Dr. Hayes, Lieutenant Danny Price called from the communications station. We have received acknowledgement from both Tyrellian and Krynoth fleets in this sector. They are transmitting full security guarantees. Carla nodded, but her eyes went to the weapons locker that had not existed on the old Hope's Light. The Council had protested when humanity began arming medical ships, but the protest was weak. Everyone understood now that protection required capability, not just law. Acknowledged, Lieutenant. Maintain standard protocols. The Hope Renewed was not alone in this approach. Across the galaxy, other species had upgraded their medical vessels. The Tyrellians, who had lost 3 hospital ships over 40 years now, had medical frigates that could defend themselves. Even the peaceful Vorshan had quietly added point defense systems. On Earth, President Catherine Blake sat with her successor, Governor Marcus Cole. The election had been close, partly due to debate over the Zelvan operation, but Catherine was satisfied with her decisions. Intelligence reports suggest the Zelvani are rebuilding faster than projected, Marcus noted. Should I be concerned? Catherine shook her head. Admiral Fisher's team monitors closely. Yes, they are rebuilding, but differently. Their new fleet focuses on defense and patrol craft. They are not building battleships that could threaten neighbors. The treaty limits are holding in their attitude toward us. Mixed, Catherine admitted. Some hate us for what we did. Others understand we could have done worse and chose not to. Premier Tashavan has been steady. She understands our response while Harsh was focused and limited. She showed him images of Zelvan Prime. The cities had been rebuilt. Infrastructure was modernized with human help. But the orbital shipyards produced only light craft. The massive military installations were gone. The key is what other species learned, Catherine continued. The Krynoth ended their war with the Zelvani within 6 months of our operation. Both sides suddenly wanted negotiation rather than fighting. Piracy rates dropped across the board. Medical ships move freely now with genuine security. Marcus was quiet. Some historians call you the war president. Does that bother you? Better than the president who let our healers die unavenged? Catherine replied. History will judge whether what we did was right. I believe it was necessary. 700 good people died doing their duty. If their deaths meant nothing, if there were no consequences, then we told the galaxy that humanity's compassion was weakness. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Claire Newton had become an unexpected power broker. Other species came to her for security advice. Recognition that humanity's approach, while brutal, was effective. Ambassador. The Tyrellian representative Quitan said during a meeting, "My government is considering joint patrols with human forces to protect medical convoys. Would Earth be interested?" Claire smiled. "Absolutely. We are forming a coalition for medical ship protection. 8 species have signed on. The idea is simple. An attack on any medical vessel is treated as an attack on all of us. Collective response. Collective deterrence." "The Zelvani model," Quitan said softly. "Inspired by it? Yes. But with more precision, we hope. The point is to never need to use it because the deterrent is so strong." On Zelvan Prime, Premier Tashavan addressed her people on the anniversary of the human attack. The broadcast went across the system and to Earth. 3 years ago, we suffered the greatest military defeat in our history. She began. "We lost our fleet and our orbital defenses. Many of you still carry anger. Some call for revenge." She paused, her crest lowered in sorrow. "But I ask you to remember why this happened. Our military attacked a medical ship. We murdered healers who were trying to save lives, including our own soldiers. We violated the most sacred principle of civilized war. And we learned there are consequences." The camera showed a memorial in the capital city. It listed all who died in the human attack, but it also included a separate wall with the Hope's Light crew names. "We remember our dead," Tashavan continued. "But we must also remember their dead. We must remember why this happened. If we forget, if we believe we were only victims, then we learn nothing. The humans taught us a harsh lesson, but it was needed." She faced the camera directly. "Today I announce that Zelvan Prime will donate resources to the new Galactic Medical Protection Fund. We will help ensure no other medical ship from any species is ever attacked again. This is our penance. This is how we ensure our dead did not die in vain." The speech was controversial. Many Zelvani resented humanity, but Tashavan's approval remained high because most recognized the truth. They had started this. They were fortunate humanity's response, while devastating, had not been genocidal. Captain Nye. Ryan Foster, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the Sol Defense Fleet. He occasionally reviewed reports from the Zelvan operation when training new officers. "The lesson here," he told cadets, "is not that overwhelming force is always the answer. It is that deterrence only works if consequences are credible and overwhelming." The Council had protocols protecting medical ships but lacked will to enforce them. We provided enforcement. A young cadet raised her hand. "Admiral, some critics say we became what we were fighting, that using such force makes us no better than those who attacked the Hope's Light." Ryan considered carefully. "It is a valid question. Here is how I see it. The people on the Hope's Light died because they chose to heal. When someone murders such people, there must be consequences severe enough to prevent it happening again. Not revenge, necessity." He showed images from both the Hope's Light debris and Zelvan Prime aftermath. "Yes, we inflicted terrible damage. 40,000 military died. That haunts me. But I know in 3 years since attacks on medical vessels essentially stopped. How many healers have we saved by that example? How many future Hope's Lights never happened because we drew a line?" The classroom was silent. Ryan continued. "There is an old quote, 'War is cruelty, and you cannot refine it.' What we did was cruel. It was meant to be. Because sometimes the only way to protect mercy is through strength so overwhelming no one dares challenge it." In the hope-renewed medical bay, Dr. Carla Hayes treated patients from 3 species, a Krynoth soldier on one bed, a Zelvani on another, a Tyrellian on a third. They eyed each other warily, but none protested treatment. "How are they doing?" Captain Julie Sanders asked. "They will all live," Carla replied. "Amazing what you can accomplish when people remember attacking. A hospital ship is suicide for their entire military." Julie smiled grimly. "Silver lining, I suppose. Though I wish we had found another way. You and me both," Carla said. "But I have talked to medical personnel from other species. They all say the same thing. They feel safer now. The law has teeth. That is worth something. In what had been a Zelvani military academy now converted to civilian university, Professor Kreshtor taught history. The former admiral had survived the battle and spent years trying to understand the failure. The humans did not defeat us through superior numbers, he told students. They defeated us through superior tactics and coordination and motivation. We had spent 1,000 years fighting enemies who thought like us. The humans thought differently. They had refined war through millennia of fighting themselves. A student raised a hand. Professor, was our attack on the Hope's Light truly what caused this? Could we have negotiated? Kreshtor's crest lowered. That question haunts me. Could we have prevented this? Yes. By following the law we swore to uphold. Commander Veshkan chose to ignore it. I chose not to question strongly enough. Our government chose to protect him. Each choice built toward catastrophe. He showed the current Zelvani military, a shadow of former power. This is our reality. We are protected by treaty and human enforcement. We have enough to defend ourselves but not threaten others. Some call this humiliation. I call it a chance at redemption. 5 years after the Hope's Light died, Admiral Greg Fisher retired. His ceremony was held aboard the new Hope's Light II. Hundreds of medical personnel attended along with officers from many species. Ambassador Clare gave the keynote. Admiral Fisher changed galactic warfare culture. He made protection of medical personnel not just principle, but enforced reality. He showed humanity's compassion is not weakness but our greatest strength because we defend it with everything we have. Fisher spoke briefly. I spent 46 years in the fleet. I made decisions that saved lives and cost lives. The Zelvan operation was hardest. I ordered destruction of a fleet and dismantling of military power. That weight stays with me. He paused. But I know in the years since medical ships move freely. Healers work without fear. Protocols once ignored are now sacred. If that was the price, then I believe it was worth paying. The ceremony ended with silence for the Hope's Light crew, then commissioning of the new ship. As it prepared for first mission, Captain Linda Martin,